Good Monday afternoon, evening, I guess it's not afternoon, everyone, and welcome live to the World Racing Network for tonight's broadcast of the TNR Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue Lawn Service here at the World Center of Racing, Daytona International Speedway, for a doubleheader of racing action tonight. It is the Team Banana Daytona split. I remembered it. The Team Banana Daytona split, sponsored by, or presented by, the Tabletop Trio. That's the right logo. I'm Mitchell Adams, as always. Joining me in the booth. Whoa, that's not Garrett Gleason. That's Will Radcliffe up in the booth with me tonight. Will, you and I were talking before the race, and I don't even know if you knew this, but it was you and me who actually did the first broadcast on the World Racing Network together. So it's very good to have you back in the booth when Garrett decided to skip work and go race a little bit. But Daytona, if you don't have enough of it, we've got more Daytona for you, and it's going to be a really exciting race here tonight as all the cars are currently sitting in pit road.
Yeah, I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Mitchell. I'm excited for this race. I watched the one last night, and I'm hoping it goes just as excitingly.
Yeah, Daytona never disappoints, and tonight we have, like I said, not one Daytona race, but two Daytona races here on the World Racing Network in the Team Banana Daytona split presented by Tabletop Trio. While everyone is just sitting in pit road doing what they do, I assume they're doing a driver's meeting, and well, I think John Cannizzaro here decides he doesn't want to go to the driver's meeting because he is the wild child. He is sort of going back out onto the track, but the format, as well as I am aware of it, is that we are going to do two 40-lap races here tonight at Daytona, and I believe this is correct again. After the first race, the finishing order will be inverted, and that will create the starting order of the second race. So whoever finishes first in this first 40-lap race will then start last in the second race, and so forth and so on. So whoever rolls off second in the second race will be the one who finished second to last in the first race. Something like that, Will. Close enough.
Close enough.
Taking a look at practice, there's 2 minutes left in practice here. Currently, it's the number 64 of Vincent Valvano who is at the top of the speed chart, followed by Robert Kenny and Mike Floppy Tellier, who won the season opener in Atlanta. So Tellier has had some success on these plate track style races. But Will, you and I both know that when you come to a track where you're running in the draft and running in a pack, it's hard to predict who's going to win this race because anybody has a shot.
Oh, definitely. And the draft is very strong on this track. When I ran some practice races, I couldn't get around anybody except for using the draft. And with high speeds, I think it was like 180 miles per hour or so average. And the draft adds 5 to that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. These drivers, I think, when they go by themselves, they get up to about 175, 180 in a qualifying lap. But then when they get in that pack, they're going to be going mid-180s, even up to 190 and maybe a little more than that miles per hour. We've got somebody out on track, although according to iRacing, we don't. There we go. Jason Schue. Well, apparently it's not Jason Schue. That's the 25 of Alonso Chicano who's back tonight. Chicano hasn't ran in a couple races, but early in the season, that number 25 was a very fast race car. We expect some good speed out of him tonight. Jason Schue, who is coming out of pit road right now. That number 3 car, he's a very good restrictor plate racer, knows how to get it done on these kinds of tracks, has won some championships out, actually, for super speedway racing. So I think that number 3 car, we'll see him at the beginning of the race, Will. He's going to stay in the back and try to avoid that big one, which is very likely. But then, as the race goes on, Jason Schue usually makes his way toward the front. And that big crash is exactly what these drivers are going to look to avoid here, as practice now coming to a close, and we're going to get into qualifying. And qualifying here at Daytona. It's not as important as at other tracks because, well, you're in the pack and you can drop from the front to the back, or you can go to the back to the front pretty quickly because everyone is just being towed along in one big pack. We'll see who's the first driver to go out and take qualifying laps, and it's going to be the 00 of Paul Bilson. Will, if you were out here driving this race tonight, what's your strategy? Are you going to want to stay toward the back of the pack and try and... You're not going to be up racing for the lead as much, but going to be a little bit safer? Or do you want to go mix it up and battle and try and get yourself to the front right from the drop of that green flag?
Oh, for sure, taking the back road. When I did do some practice races, everything will happen, like you say, with that big crash. There will inevitably be one, and when that happens, I would want to slingshot around. That would be my chance, and from there forth, I would hopefully be in first. But no, definitely to begin would be in the back.
A lot of takers out on the racetrack here, but just about as many still sitting in the pits, including Garrett Gleason. He's trying to hide from. He doesn't want to show himself out on track yet. Again, it's going to take a little bit before lap times come in here. You see right now this is the number 61 of Bronson Stafford, going to run up a little bit higher on the racetrack for lap number 1 because these drivers at Daytona, if you watch the lap guide we put out on the World Racing Network, they get 2 laps. In lap 1, you just want to hang up by that wall and build as much momentum as you possibly can to be as fast as you can going into lap number 2. You see the number 18 of John Cannizzaro Jr., the wild child, in the Stay Tuned Sports Machine. John had a good run last week at the Indianapolis road course, got up, led some laps. Although Daytona, this fits into his style, just racing hard, going up and fighting for the lead. I expect good things from John Cannizzaro here tonight as qualifying times start to get onto the board. Fastest so far is the 51 of Matthew Rodriguez, who's sporting a little bit of a new look here tonight, the Steak and Shake car. Getting me a little bit hungry here. Look at that shake all over the front hood. That's a nice looking race car, Will.
Yes, it is.
Second,
Haven't had steak and shake in a long time.
the second fastest right now is J.D. Laird. Wasn't sure if we'd see much of J.D. Laird anymore with the Coca-Cola iRacing Series starting up, but he is back tonight. Coming across the line for lap number 2. Will he pick it up? He will, and he goes to the top of the speed chart. So right now, J.D. Laird, the fastest on the track. This is Bill Edwards in the S2R and FatalConcepts.com number 5 machine out for qualifying. Just about a minute and a half left. There are quite a few drivers who aren't taking to the grid, which is no surprise. They want to start toward the back of the field, which is what I think you and I both would do that, Will. I also tend to, in my career, I like to hang toward the back, but usually I qualify and then just fade to the back if I don't like what's going on in the pack. Bill Edwards headed down pit road now with just about a minute left in qualifying, and at this point, if you're not out on track, you're probably not getting a lap. And here's Philip Scott, Will, who had a great race last week, pick up the win at the Indy Road Course in dramatic fashion.
Yes, he did, and I've been a Philip Scott fan since I started watching these races, and happy to see him win on something that, you know, road courses, which is more my style. So very happy.
Yeah, you've been dragging me into those, the D class. Is it the GR80, the Toyota car iRacing just released?
Yes, the Toyota GR86.
You're
much better than the Mazdas.
Much more of a road course man than myself. That's the number 90 of Johnny Eckert, who came so close to a win last week. It would have been 2 in a row for Eckert. He won just 2 weeks ago at Dover. And that about wraps up qualifying here. These drivers going to transition over to the starting grid, and we are going to take you through the starting order for tonight's race. Again, it is the Team Banana Daytona Split presented by Tabletop Trio. And out at the front of the field is going to be J.D. Laird. Leading them to green. To his outside is going to be the 61 of Bronson Stafford. Rolling off in the third position, Tom Bourne in the 16. We haven't seen Tom Bourne either in a couple weeks. Good to see him back. John Cannizzaro, the wild child, starts from the fourth position. In fifth, the 60 of Joey Chapman, a new face here for tonight's race. Then rolling off in sixth, the number 5 of Bill Edwards. Seventh place, Matthew Rodriguez. Eighth place, DJ Weeks. Ninth is last week's winner, Philip Scott in the World Ninja League machine. And then rounding out your top 10, Johnny Eckert. Will, you want to take him through the top 20?
Sure. So next we have the 25 of Alonso Chicano. Following him is the 55 of Steven Doziak Jr. After that, we have 35 of Robert Tripp and Paul Bilson, 00, right after that. Maybe he'll add a 007 to his name after this race. We have the third place, Jason Schue. We expect him to be pretty fast tonight. 74, Jake Bustos after him. 34th, number 34, sorry, we have Robert Kinney. And 23rd, Bob Giaquinto.
Got it.
Mike Floppy Tellier as number 47 right after him, and 64 Vincent Valvano. And the last two, I expect them to be making a comeback in this race. Number 7 Garrett Gleason, who I'm taking the place of tonight, and number 9 Johnny Williams.
Trying to find a good camera of Garrett Gleason's car. There's not really one. That's decent. He's got World Racing Network on his car here tonight. Right, owes it to me after he skipped work on me. Of course, I love having you here in the booth with me, Will. Not to imply that at all, but he's got a very nice looking race car done by FatalConcepts.com. They sponsored a race a couple weeks ago. That's Bill Edwards in the number 5, excuse me. Absolutely great work on Garrett Gleason's WRN car. We might have to bring him up, be our in-race reporter here tonight. He did say thanks for letting him race tonight and have a good call to us here in the booth. Also out in the chat, the Windsors saying good luck, Bill. I expect Bill Edwards to have a pretty good run tonight. We ran last Friday night in the National Sim Racing Association. We ran at Daytona as well, me and Bill teammates. So did a lot of working together. He's in the Daytona mood. A lot of these drivers are, because we share a lot of drivers with the NSRA. But this field getting lined up to go green, and Will, it's going to be crazy as soon as that green flag drops.
Yes, it will. It always is at the start of Daytona.
J.D. Laird up at the front of the pack. 2 wins this season for Laird. Again, on a part-time schedule. We haven't seen him in a couple weeks. He is back. To his outside, Bronson Stafford. Also haven't seen Bronson much this season, although he has made a couple of starts. Actually, one start that was at Kansas, where he finished in 21st place, but second place a whole lot up closer to the front than 21st. We'll see if he can keep that car up there as the iRacing pace car getting ready to pull down pit road, and these drivers get into the iRacing restart zone, waiting for that green flag to wave. There it is, and we are racing at Daytona. Side-by-side start. Will, both lanes really got off. Well, look at John Cannizzaro pushing the 61 of Stafford up in that outside lane.
Yeah, and we'll see who can, after the big first incident, who can shoot up from the back and will make their play to the win.
Yeah, that big one always looming here at Daytona, and some drivers like to just get to the back knowing that's going to come up. There's Tom Bourne in the 16. He decides he doesn't want to stay up toward the front. He's got that Greg Biffle 16 number font. Looks very similar to what Biffle used to run for Roush Racing. And of course, that That number did very well here at Daytona on the plate tracks. Roush Racing did, so maybe that'll be a good luck charm for Tom Bourne here tonight. Is up front, JD Laird, your pole sitter, slipped back a little bit. He's now running in the 6th position. We highlighted that really good push John Cannizzaro gave to Bronson Stafford up in the outside lane, though. It's Philip Scott being pushed by Alonso Chicano.
Yeah, and clean so far, Mitchell. They've gotten around the first lap with no problems.
Yep, so far so good for these drivers. Of course, 40 laps, a lot of racing here, and then we're going to do it all over again. As you see, Philip Scott ducks down to that inside lane, but he's going to have no help behind him. And that should give the 25 of Chicano quite the run in the outside lane. Now has Paul Bilson in that 00 and Bill Edwards in the 5 behind him. And now JD Laird going to go up into the outside lane. Chicano wants to go down. They actually cleared the top 3 cars, but Bill Edwards went down, decided to stick with that outside lane. Paul Bilson as well, staying up high as the field races again down the back straightaway. Which lane do you want to be in right now? Do you want to be in that higher lane with fewer cars, Will? Or do you have to push a little bit harder? Do you want to be in the inside lane where you can kind of just sit back and save a little bit of fuel because you've got a lot of cars there to work with and build momentum?
That's a tough question, but I think the inside lane is better. You have a real high chance in this track. It just kind of pulls you into the wall, and that's a really easy way to start an accident. So taking the inside lane and being safe, just letting it all happen, is where I would be.
A little bit squirrely there was the 5 of Bill Edwards trying to get to Paul Wilson and push that 00 out to the race lead. John Cannizzaro now jumps up into the outside lane. Robert Tripp joining those cars in the outside. Little shuffling around going on in the back of the pack. The thing, though, is it's only these 3 cars now that are in the outside lane. You see Paul Bilson and Bill Edwards duck down into that inside lane up front. And it's tough when you're one of those just 3 cars in the outside lane. It's really tough to compete with a line that has so many more cars as you. You really have to get aggressive with that side draft, hold them tight. Did you see the number 25 of Alonso Chicano? He's been aggressive at the start of this race, and he wants to get up into the race lead. Probably not many pushers better than JD Laird, too, to lead that outside. See side by side into turn number 3. Chicano with the nose in front. JD Laird right on the bumpers. Paul Bilson slipped up the track, got a little bit tight on the entry of turn number 3, and that's the danger of it, Will. One little slip up when you're running inches off somebody, that could be the end of your race.
Absolutely.
2-car tandem looks like out in the front of this pack. Alonso Chicano and JD Laird. The way these cars work, you can't keep like that very long. You're going to overheat the engine, but for now, that's a very good push out into the race lead. As again, they race down the back straight away. Now it's Robert Tripp being pushed by Philip Scott in the outside. JD Laird going to look high, but there's no one there to help him, and that 46 going to slip back. Thought maybe Bill Edwards would go up and help him. He's not, and he's going to have to slip back a little bit and pick up the 35 of Robert Tripp. Mike Tellier got a little bit of a wiggle there coming out of turn number 4. Philip as well, I think, thought about making it 3 wide, and right now, Will, we're 7 laps into this race, so really you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out who your dancing partner is going to be. Who can I work with and trust to push me late in this race? And who do I want to be pushed by late in this race? Because sometimes that person behind you is a little bit more aggressive of a pusher, and they want to get up there a little bit quicker than you do. And you just have to find those people you're comfortable with right now in the pack.
Absolutely, and right now we have Chicano being pushed by 00, Paul Bilson, and they are making a little bit of a ways out at the front of the field here. So clearly they've determined their fighting partners for right now.
Yeah, ever since JD Laird in the 46 jumped out of that inside lane, they really haven't made much of a run back to the front. And that could be just that the 35 of Robert Tripp, you see him, he's a little ways off Laird's bumper, maybe just doesn't want to be quite as aggressive, doesn't feel super comfortable with his car yet. You see there he closed it up out of turn number 2 though, but again, only 3 cars in that outside lane makes it difficult for them to build up a massive run on this inside lane. But JD Laird, you see him getting low, trying to work the side draft a little bit, and also Philip Scott pretty detached from these 2 cars, so really it's just the 2 of them working, and that's not very sustainable if you're the 35. You can't stay on that 46 and push him forever because that engine is gonna overheat. You need a little bit of help. On board now with the 99 of Philip Scott. And right now, too, well, they're kind of just playing it safe for the most part. You see them lined up, single file on the inside, except for those 3 cars we've been talking about. These drivers, we're not even to a quarter race distance quite yet. Right now, they just want to settle in and clock some laps because they know you can't wreck out on lap 10 and then you're done, really. And that's a long way to wait before race number 2.
Absolutely, and not to give any commentators a curse here, but I'm absolutely surprised we haven't had any incidents yet. It's been a very clean race, which is great for all the drivers. This will be great for them. And as the 00, Paul Bilson is peeking out in front of the 25, seeing if he can get a run, but peeps back in.
Yeah, Paul Bilson, a very good pusher. He's also a very aggressive plate racer. You see him gets right up on the bumper. He's one of the more experienced, or I have more experience working with Paul Bilson here at these plate tracks. Another one of my teammates I ran with on Friday night. Very good at communicating, he and Bill Edwards both. I like these cars up here on the inside lane. A lot of very good drivers. The outside though, Will, they're making some progress up toward the front of the pack. And I'm not surprised because these TNR drivers, very, very talented. We've had a lot of green flag running this season, so I'd say in most leagues, yeah, you would have expected a caution, but TNR, these guys really good, and we're used to good, clean green flag racing here as you see those drivers pushing on the back straightaway. That outside lane just starting to creep their way up toward the front. The thing I'm noticing, though, is that the 35 doesn't really stay consistently on the bumper of JD Laird. He'll give him a good push, and then he backs off, and then he'll go push him hard again, and then he backs off for a little bit, and that's good for keeping that 35, his temperatures managed, especially when he doesn't have much help from behind him, but that's not going to be able to sustain a big run up to the lead. I think right now they need more cars, and the wild child, John Cannizzaro, looking to be the one to do it. He jumps into the outside lane, but he's got a ways to go before he gets up to those front 3. Of course, it can be so simple. As you see, Vincent Valvano also gets up into the outside lane. You see how quickly he ran up there. Sometimes, Will, all you have to do is just get in that slipstream, and it'll bring you right up to those cars. It's very powerful, and that's what drives these guys forward and makes them so much faster here in the race versus in qualifying.
Absolutely. We have another taker for the outside lane, farther back in the field. Clearly, it's becoming a little more profitable. At least they're seeing it as more profitable to go into the higher lane.
Yeah, the outside lane business starting to pick up a little bit. Jason Schue now jumps up into that outside lane, and as the laps go on, that's exactly what we're going to see on board with Jason Schue in the number 3. You're going to see a lot more takers because that outside lane, traditionally, that's where you make your passes, is getting up into the outside lane and pushing your way through those cars on the inside. Is now Bill Edwards jumps up into the outside lane. He goes in front of JD Laird. Chicano actually blinked out there for just a minute. That's very dangerous here at Daytona because you see the 00 Paul Bilson He is right on the bumper of Chicanos. Oh, Bill Edwards got a little bit loose into one, but we are nose to nose, Will, at lap 14.
Absolutely, and the higher lane is now neck and neck with Chicano, almost making it past him.
Bill Edwards in the 5, gonna inch in front, has room to clear down if he wants to. He does. Oh, he hesitated. I still don't know where he's gonna go, and he's gonna stick up in the outside lane with JD Laird. He just kind of sat in the middle of the racetrack there for a minute. That's dangerous, because if JD Laird decides to go to your outside, then you're stuck in the middle with no help whatsoever. But that allows Chicano to maintain the lead for now. And we have Marie out in the chat saying, go Chicano. He's certainly doing a good job right now. Has commanded this race. Is again the 00 gets a little bit up the track into turn number 1. The top 3 here, that's 61 of Bronson Stafford. There's a little bit of a gap behind him before you get to Joey Chapman. Of course, they close it up now as soon as I point that out. But the key to being fast here, you got to stay close to everybody. Is again that 00 a little bit shaky. I wonder if he isn't maybe struggling with the handle just a little bit, Will.
Yeah, and the whole field is starting to thin out a little bit here, start spreading out. Number 5 is a little flirting with the inside lane there, and 00 doesn't seem too happy anymore to be just running as the backup. He keeps peeking up and down.
Oh, trouble. Back in the pack. Caution flag is out. Sorry to cut you off there, Will. I saw Vincent Valvano got hard up into the outside wall. A lot of other drivers involved. We're going to go take a look back at this incident. First caution of the day. Watching the 61. Gets a little bit of a tap into the corner from Mike Tellier. Up into Jason Schue. Bunch of other drivers involved in that one. The number 9 machine of Johnny Williams. A bunch of heavy contact there. And that puts us under our first caution of the day. And that's how close it can be, Will. The 47 of Tellier, he was just slightly off-centered of that bumper, and that was all it took to create this caution.
Absolutely, and the high speeds here make it so impossible to recover your car after you've been even that slightly turned.
Yeah, and when you're running in a big pack like this too, it's very difficult to... You really don't have anywhere to go except to drive straight into it, and you have to try and slow your car up. We're going to go on board with the Tabletop Trio machine. That is Bob Giaquinto, as he got caught up in this one. Got a good view of how it starts, and then you see gets hit from behind, and then there's nowhere to go. Just straight up, the momentum carries him in to Johnny Williams. And like I had said, some of these drivers might be able to continue in this race, but for those who can't, it's a long wait before race number 2 of our doubleheader here tonight.
Yeah, and this crash sees numbers 34, 97. Seeing some other ones here. Number 9. Quite a few racers. 97, who just kind of innocently was trying to avoid it and got hit by the 47 as he was coming back down. So if any of those are your favorite racers, they're going to at least be in the back of the pack now.
Yeah, quite a few cars involved. Saw Bob Giaquinto, a ton of damage, heavy damage on just about everyone involved in that wreck. Most of your leaders coming down pit road now. This is, I was going to say, that's a weird angle for somebody on pit road. I couldn't quite tell who it was, but all your leaders, in fact, everybody is down pit road. And that's not really a surprise, Will. This should mean that these drivers are good until the end of the race now, not having to pit. There's a look at that. The 7, the Garrett Gleason WRN machine, painted by FatalConcepts.com. Haven't gotten a really good look at it in this broadcast. You know, the best way to get yourself some airtime here on any broadcast is to slap the broadcaster's logo on the car, and that is what Garrett Gleason wisely did here today. Again, a big thank you to Fatal Concepts for painting this car as well. Looks fantastic. Just did one for me too. You're gonna see in the lap guide videos. So We'll see if Garrett Gleason can't get up a little more toward the front of the pack. We'll see here. In fact, let's get real crazy and let's try and dial up the number 7 of Garrett Gleason. Gotta find him here. Garrett Gleason, Mitchell Adams, and Will Radcliffe in the WRN booth. You got a copy?
I got a copy. How's Will doing up there filling in for me?
He's doing all right, I think. I might just keep him up here and fire you or something. I don't know, but no, we're having a fun time up here. But how's it feel getting back on the racetrack here in TNR?
It's been a blast so far, Mitchell. I really appreciate you guys at WRN letting me do this and taking this WRN Chevrolet out on track. I felt the wreck was coming there, and sure enough, it was. I hate to see some cars get wild up there, but that's about, 6 less cars I have to pass later on, so I'll take it.
Yeah, got through that one okay. How's the racing out there, and what's the aggression level you feel like?
Initially, Mitchell, I was very confused that it seemed like everybody was single file on that bottom lane, and then as that stage, rolling stage caution came up, guys wanted to mix it up, and Doze and I were talking over the headset. We thought one was coming, and then they made it to lap 16, and I figured we were out of the woods, but sure enough, they ended up wadding them up. So far it's been peaceful, but I think it's going to get intense, and I expect the same thing for our doubleheader, our next race tonight.
Jimbo out in the chat says he's glad to see you remember to leave your monitor on here tonight.
Oh, that's tough. That was a rough break, and it was just as they had the camera on me too. So now that you have the camera on me, maybe I'll fly up onto the racetrack here off of pit road because I'm not paying attention.
Well, we'll let you get caught back up to the field. I know you guys are about to go back green. Thanks for chatting with us here on the broadcast.
Appreciate it, guys. Have fun up in the booth, and we'll talk to you hopefully on the top 3 at the end of this race. Yeah, right.
That was Garrett Gleason, driver of the number 7 machine. Hey, not counting him out for the top 3s. Got through that wreck, Will. He's being patient, feeling this race out, and there's still plenty of time for him to march his way up toward the front of this field. Got a little ways to go through it, but all in all, I think Garrett Gleason's doing all right so far tonight.
Absolutely. Anything can happen. You know how this is at Daytona. Any slight mix-ups or any slight changes get you to the front.
It appears that we did a single file restart, which is very unconventional, but it is, I believe, what just took place. So we are back green flag racing. It's the 18 of John Cannizzaro in the Stay Tuned Sports Machine out leading laps. Paul Bilson on him. The 35 of Robert Tripp and the 3 of Jason Schue make up a 4-car breakaway. Then behind them, J.D. Laird going to catch up really quickly here with Bill Edwards pushing him. We'll see if that 46 decides to jump out of line. He does. And we'll see if anyone decides to go with him. Doesn't look like it in that outside lane. At the halfway point this time, Jason Freeman also out in the chat, wondering why they're bump drafting in the corners this early in the race. And it was just really trying to create some momentum there in the back of the pack. A little bump gone wrong. And we are single file kind of naturally because we did a single file restart. That tends to be what happens. But we're at the halfway point now. When do you think these drivers are going to start picking up the aggression and trying to race for the win? Because there's still little time, but you can't wait too long.
Yeah, I think that we can see the 00 of Paul Wilson still in second place there. I think that he's just waiting his turn, just waiting until things get a little exciting. Maybe a higher lane starts to form, and then he's going to take his shot. So maybe 4 or 5 laps, I think, and everyone will turn it up.
When I was racing, the last place I wanted to be on a plate track, other than Recton in the garage, was the leader with a couple laps to go. I always preferred to be that guy in second or third or fourth who can jump out of line and maybe get a run at it. Because if you're the leader there, you're basically a sitting duck. And as soon as these drivers decide, oh, I don't want to push you anymore, well, what can you really do about it? As you see Bilson give a nice shove to Cannizzaro into turn number 3. But that's the nature, especially when you're single file like this. If they hang you out and guys go with them, there's not much for you to do. So I like Paul Bilson's position right now. I like where Robert Tripp is. Jason Schue. I talked about Jason Schue. Don't sleep on that number 3. Of your top 5, 3 of them have gained over 10 positions since the start of the race. Paul Bilson up from his 14th place starting position to 2nd. Tripp 13th to 3rd. And Jason Schue 15th to 4th. As JD Laird says, okay, enough single file racing. I'm going to go race for the lead again. And Will, that outside lane formed up really quickly.
Yes, it did. And they're already starting to push ahead of our leader here, John Canizaro, number 46 in the 60, getting a good run.
Yeah, just past the halfway point in this race. We're going to do something we also have not done yet this season on WRN, and we are going to listen in to this race at Daytona. Field crossing the start-finish line to take lap number 26 here at the Daytona International Speedway. Still John Canizaro out at the front of the pack. JD Laird, you saw in that listening, got down to the inside lane, and it's now the 60 of Joey Chapman up leading the outside lane. Chapman in his first start this season, and John Canizaro decides he doesn't want to be up at the front of the pack. He drops down, and he's going to go toward the back run where it's a little bit safer. Now you see, Will, that really let that outside lane get the advantage. Now we just have to wait and see if anybody's going to drop down, but they look pretty committed to running that outside.
Yeah, and I think JD Laird might be kicking himself now that he probably saw that the inner line was faster, and now he's just lost quite a few positions from that.
Yeah, I've been surprised that the outside lane hasn't been a little bit better so far this race. Of course, now we're seeing it really dominate on track, but usually the outside can move up a little bit quicker, and I don't know what it's been about tonight. Maybe just the guys on the inside are doing a really good job pushing, but the outside lane hasn't been as successful, as it typically is at Daytona. And you see now Paul Bilson gets a massive shove from Robert Tripp. JD Laird going to come with them, and there goes your chance to drop down to the inside if you are one of those cars up on that outside lane. But there's still plenty of time left. We're not quite into hurry up, let's go to the front mode. But Paul Bilson now has done his fair share of pushing, Will. Now he gets the chance to go lead the race a little bit.
Yes, he does, and that's probably, just like you said earlier, the scariest position. Him and just behind him are getting a good run, getting that higher line, and it's falling back again. Although the number 46 and the 5, they jump up into the higher lane, seeing that opening, and are probably going to skyrocket ahead from the 60.
They've been working together pretty well here tonight, and both JD Laird and Bill Edwards, both very good restrictor plate racers. We've seen almost inseparable here tonight. Those two made quite a few moves together, and again here Bill Edwards going to push J.D. Laird out to the front, and Laird will lead that time by. But what we've seen throughout the race is that you can't really sustain that with just 2 cars. Well, you've got to have that help from the 3rd or the 4th car back to keep pushing you forward. But right now, both these lanes, quite a few cars, but that separation between the drivers of the inside, that's really hurting them right now. You can see it there, how spread apart they are. You're not going to beat that outside lane with that kind of separation in between your cars.
Most definitely, and I know that the draft is strong enough that they could reach up. So the 60 is intentionally not joining them in that front of that pack there. So I don't know if he's hoping that something will happen with that bump, and he'll jump to the head or what.
Well, typically on speedways, one way to get around somebody is to lay back quite a bit, and then you suck up their draft, and then you just throttle it down, and you build up a ton of momentum, and you've got someone behind you to push, and you rocket around them. But you can't really do that in this case because there's a bunch of cars on the outside lane to keep you from doing that. Right now, though, I'm very impressed with that 35 of Robert Tripp. He's keeping Paul Bilson nose to nose with the outside lane when they are much better formed up there in the outside, and actually pushes Bilson to the lead. Being totally honest here, and Tripp now clears, I'd jump up to the outside if I was one of these guys, and we'll see if either one of them chooses to do that. It would probably be Robert Tripp, if anyone, but he stays to the inside. Commit to pushing Paul Bilson. 10 laps to go, though, Will. At this point in the race, we're going to tempt the commentators' cars. We're going to tempt fate. Who are you liking in this pack? Who do you think's got the best shot, the best car to win this race?
I think that the double O, Paul Bilson, definitely has the best shot. Not only has he kept his 2nd place, very patient at the beginning of the race with Alonso Chicano. He was very patient. He was waiting his turn, and now is running back and forth between 1st and 2nd. And he's got his friend behind him to keep him getting him there. And there might be some competition there, but I still think that he's got the best shot.
I like that pick. I'm going to go a little bit deeper in the field for mine for race 1. I'm taking the number 18, John Cannizzaro. He's sitting back in his Stay Tuned Sports podcast machine, but we've seen him up front lead some laps, and I think he's just sitting back, biding his time with Philip Scott, Steven Doziak. I expect to see him make a charge toward the front here in the next couple laps, and I think that 18 could wind up in victory lane. Who do you think? Out in the chat, make your picks since we're picking drivers here. J.D. Laird got pushed clear by Bill Edwards, but Edwards drops to the inside lane, and he'll get picked up by Paul Bilson. The 5 is clear for the race lead. That Fatal Concepts S2R machine out to the point, and Bill Edwards going to lead a lap here as they take 8 laps to go. That time by. In the Team Banana Daytona split presented by Tabletop Trio. Again, we have to thank tonight's race sponsor, Team Banana and Tabletop Trio. I know the Tabletop Trio podcast, you can check them out on Twitch. Make sure to do that. I believe it's Wednesdays at 8 p.m. They stream and have a podcast about anything you can do on a table. So they do all kinds of things. Very entertaining, so we're going to make sure to check out Tabletop Trio. Will, what we're seeing now is a bit of a breakaway for these top 4 cars. They've gotten in line single file, and, well, now the 2nd pack is catching them, but that outside lane, where did it go? It completely diminished. We went from 1 minute, it's completely side by side, too wide, through the pack, and now there's just nobody out there, Will. You think drivers trying to play it a little bit safe here before they make their final charges for the win?
I don't know if it's even that. I think that Bill Edwards kind of single-handedly took that out. When he took away from J.D. Laird, given the bump draft, J.D. Laird had nowhere to go, and he lost all that speed, and everyone behind just kind of figured, well, that's that, and jumped down to the bottom.
It is the 5 of Bill Edwards out on the point at the front of this pack. The 25 of Alonso Chicano runs as the lead car of the outside lane. He's being pushed by the 61 of Bronson Stafford and the 34 of Robert Kenny. Now the 16 of Tom Bourne jumps up into the outside lane. Philip Scott a little ways back working it, but that outside lane has already charged their way up to the front. And you saw again the 00 slipped out of line a little bit, but gets right back down to push. And look, John Cannizzaro jumps up to the front as well. The number 99 of Philip Scott up into the outside. Doziak was there for a minute. The 7 of Garrett Gleason, he's sitting back here in the WRN car, just biding his time. But up at the front, Chicano actually going to get clear of Edwards for the race lead. Will he jump down? I don't know that I would, Will, with that momentum.
Yeah, no, I would not.
Yeah, the outside just seems like it's been very good at stretching out the lead, and it keeps, they knock it down there, but it keeps on coming back, and 5 laps to go. We are side by side for your race lead.
Yeah, I think that the 00 Paul Bilson, he's keeping us strong on the inside, but there's definitely no denying the power of that higher lane. I mean, you saw that in just a matter of seconds. Alonso jumps down from around 10th place up to 2nd.
Yeah, and Chicano got a very good push from Bronson Stafford in the number 61, and now both lanes very well formed up at the front of the pack. The outside slips just a little bit. Out in the chat, Matthew says, let's go Beasley. Johnny Williams says he can't tell who's going to win. And that's the beauty of Daytona here. We don't know who's going to win 4 laps to go. This is one of those tracks anybody in the field could win this race, and that's what makes this place so fun and why so many drivers circle Daytona on their calendar, because they know every single one of them can win this race. Right now, though, it's Alonso Chicano and Bill Edwards up at the front of this field, nose to nose into turn number 3. And this pack is double file, 5 or 6 rows deep here. Coming to 3 laps to go. Neither lane can really get the advantage, but the question I'm asking, Will, is who's going to make this thing 3 wide first?
Whoever it is would be a brave man. I think 00 he's trying there, but every time that he does, the top lane just kind of closes right back in.
It's tough if you're in that inside lane to jump out into the middle and just hope someone goes with you. I expect that move probably going to come from the outside lane. And you see it there, the 61 of Bronson Stafford. He shuffles out Alonso Chicano. No one going with that 25. He is going to drop back through this pack. Got chewed up and spit out. And that's exactly how you make that move. Now the 61 up at the front of this field. DJ Weeks, I believe, just came down pit road in that number 97 machine. And the inside lane completely disappeared. Now Robert Kenny in the 34 jumps to the inside. 2 laps to go, but he's got no help, Will, as they work their way out of turn 2.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here dumbfounded watching this race unfold. People from way in the back, J.D. Lear now jumping back in the front. Everything is changing.
The 61 of Stafford goes to the inside lane. Now it's Tom Bourne in the outside being pushed by Matthew Rodriguez. Rodriguez in that 51. He is one of the best plate racers I know. So watch that 51 here as they take the white flag. 1 lap to go in the first race of the Team Banana Daytona Split presented by Tabletop Trio. Bronson Stafford leads the inside. Tom Bourne leads the outside as they work their way through turns 1 and 2. See some drivers back in the pack. Thought about trying to make a 3rd lane work. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. JD Laird jumps up to the outside. Cannizzaro jumps back into the middle, side by side, nose to nose, into 3 and 4. The 34 of Kenny has a little bit better help than the 61 on the inside as they drag race out of turn number 4. Who's going to win it? Side by side, the 61. He's turned by Bill Edwards, and it's going to be Robert Kenny winning the first race of the Team Banana Daytona Split as there is carnage behind him. Everybody wrecks but Robert Kenny, who picks up the win.
What a sad way to lose there for the number 61. Can't imagine. He had a good run, but I don't think he was going to win either way. Robert Kinney definitely had the advantage going into that.
Yeah, Robert Kinney put himself in the right place, made the right moves. He's made 2 starts this season with a best finish of 5th. The other one was a 17th, but tonight he wins the first race of this Daytona doubleheader, and he is going to celebrate this win as he should. Second place was Tom Bourne, and third place Matthew Rodriguez. You see him there in the 51. And it was carnage behind them. Robert Kinney's going to celebrate here. We're going to pick a better camera and get ready to interview your top 3 finishers. Stick with us. Robert Kinney being pushed down pit road by Tom Bourne as we start our post-race show for race number 1 of 2 here tonight in the Team Banana Daytona split presented by Tabletop Trio doubleheader. We're going to kick things off talking with the number 51 of Matthew Rodriguez. Matthew, we didn't see a whole lot of you up at the front. You were there, but you were kind of lurking around in the shadows, and then in that last lap, you just made your charge up toward the front. Came really close, but third place, that's a great way to start this doubleheader off.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a huge fuel mileage racer, and I can't do strategies like some of these other guys can, but I got clued in on the strategy of at least trying to save fuel a little bit, and that let me play around at the end. I'm kind of shocked I made it as far as I did. I thought we were all wrecked coming out of 4, but can't believe we all kept it in one piece.
That caution there mid-race, that probably simplified the strategy a little bit for you here tonight.
Actually, it made it a lot more complicated. Originally, it went for, hey, we're going to be able to pit around the time that, we already had preset out and we knew we'd 100% make it to the end. No worries, we can go out and play. To, we're questionable whether we can actually make it to the end or not, and unfortunately it was, hey, we had just enough to get by.
Well, you're definitely going to pull a good result out of this one. Does that give you a better feeling going into this second race of this doubleheader here tonight?
Obviously a trophy would make me feel 10 times better, but I'll take what I can get of, hey, I need a lot of points to kind of help me for the playoffs, and right now this is kind of one of those, hey, I need points more than I need a win. So I'm happy that I wasn't Bronson on the bottom line who went spinning across the infield. I'll take 3 wide almost at the wall.
Yeah, I think you 3 at the front were probably the only ones who didn't wreck there coming across the line. But I'll give you a chance while we've got you in the booth to give any shout outs you'd like to, and then let you go get ready for the second race.
Obviously Steak and Shake, nice keeping me happy hour powered. shout out to Robert Kenny. I absolutely love. If there's one guy I want to lose to, it would be Robert Kenny. Where uh, guy's always there and need a friend. Hey, he's great. So I, I'm just I'm so excited to see him get a win. I'd love to see him take it back to back.
We'll be looking for him, and we'll be looking for you too in this second race of the doubleheader. Thanks for stopping by, Matthew, and good luck in the next one.
No problem.
That was Matthew Rodriguez, driver of the number 51. He finishes in third place here tonight. Next up, time to catch up with the second place finisher, Tom Bourne. You came so close here tonight, just a little bit short of beating Robert Kinney to the line.
Yeah, it was. At the end of the day, I wasn't leaving Bob's back bumper. We worked well together all race, and we've worked well together for years. So you know what? I figured if I do that, then he might be able to repay the favor in the second race tonight.
Yeah, looking ahead to that second race, did you learn anything from this first one? Were you kind of watching drivers and kind of try and feel everybody out to give yourself an even better chance going into race number 2?
Yeah, definitely learned who not to be around. But
That's something.
yeah, who I can work with and everything like that. Fortunately, I've raced with these guys, uh, in past leagues, the majority of them, and ultimately it just seems like I found the guys that I can work with. Obviously, my teammates and everything, they're great on super speedways, so I've learned a lot from them over the past couple of years, and hopefully we just stay out of a wreck and just keep going forward and going for the win. 1-2 in both races will be pretty nice.
You think you might get the 1 in this next race?
I hope so. Look, I don't plan on going down the finishing order. I just plan on going up, and there's one spot in front of second place that I want. So we'll see what happens.
Well, we're trying to keep things short so we can get rolling into the second race, but it'll give you the chance to give some shout outs while we've got you in the booth, and then we will let you get ready for race 2.
Yeah, I just want to thank Sky Motorsports for putting together another fast car for race 1. Hopefully, we'll have the same thing in race 2. G Fuel, Player One Coffee, Fire News, you guys for putting on a broadcast week in and week out. Great job, as always. And my wonderful fiance, Melissa, she's always watching, my number 1 fan. So hopefully we can bring home a win for her in race 2.
Well, best of luck to you. We'll just a couple minutes away from that second race, so we'll let you go get ready, talk to your team, and then get all set. Thanks for talking with us.
Thanks, guys.
That was Tom Bourne, your second place finisher here tonight. Now we are down in victory lane with Robert Kinney. Congratulations on the race win. Made you work for it here tonight, but in the end, you put yourself in the best position and you crossed that line in first place.
Yeah, it was a good, entertaining race. I think it went pretty well.
Yeah, definitely was. How aggressive did you think you had to drive out there? What was your strategy coming into this race, knowing that there was another race after it? What's the mindset for you guys down there?
Our mindset for the whole team is just basically just to have fun and do what we can, because we know it's a super speedway. Anything can really happen, but we can try to strategize to make it go as well as it can for us. So we knew fuel was going to be tight, so we were saving mainly the whole race, especially after the caution just after stage. We knew it was going to be real tight, so we saved pretty hard until about 5 to go, and then we moved up to that high lane and made our way to the front.
Yeah, certainly. Looking ahead to this second race, do you have any tricks left up your sleeve? We know you won this one, but do you have anything to win this second one too? What do you think your chances are?
No more really tricks up my sleeve. Just go out there, try to win with the hand you're dealt, whether it's whether you're trying to win it on speed or on fuel. Just try to do my best to grab that checkered flag at the end of the race.
Well, best of luck to you going into this next one. Before I let you go, though, give you a chance to give some shout-outs to anyone who might be watching on WRN.
Oh yeah, just shout out to you guys for the broadcast, league admins for putting it on, Astro Game Equipment, Sim Speed Shop, Cineplex, Steak and Shake, all the sponsors on all of our cars. Yeah, and then all my teammates, whatever their names are, that I can't remember right now.
Well, again, good luck to you going into this second race. We'll go and let you go talk with your teammates, and we'll see if we don't get to talk to you again a little bit later on.
All right, well, thank you very much. Have a good night.
That was Robert Kinney, driver of the number 34, and your winner here for this first race. Will, we're going to keep things short and sweet here in this post-race because we've got to roll on to race number 2, but we'll go ahead and take you through your finishing order for race number 1. It was Robert Kinney in the number 34 picking up the win. Tom Bourne finished in second. Matthew Rodriguez came home in third. Then it was Bill Edwards in the Fatal Concepts machine in fourth. Joey Chapman, start number 1, a P5, not bad. John Canizaro, the Wild Child, finished in 6th place. Paul Bilson comes home P7. J.D. Laird, after leading quite a few laps, in 8th. Robert Tripp in 9th. And Jake Bustos finished in 10th.
Yeah, and then 11th, we start off with 25 of Alonso Chicano, 90, John Eckert, 55, Steven Doziak Jr., and right after that, the number 9 of Philip Scott. 7 of Garrett Gleason comes right after him, and 61 of Bronson Stafford. 97, DJ Weeks, and 3 of Jason Schue, following them pretty close. 23, Bob Giaquinto, and 64, Vincent Valvano behind them. And to round off the bottom of the field, we have 47 of Mike Floppy Tyler and number 9 of Johnny Williams.
And the beauty of tonight, Will, we are going to get to do it all over again. We are going to put a quick pause on this broadcast. Keep it here, though, because we'll be back in a few minutes with race number 2 of the Team Banana Daytona split, presented by Tabletop Trio. So keep it tuned in on this stream while we transition over into a different iRacing server for race number 2. We'll explain a little bit more format things then, but until then, keep it right here, and we're going to treat you to the latest episode of the Pit Stop Podcast by WRN. We hope you enjoy, and we will see you in just a couple minutes. NASCAR is officially back. We are points racing again. The Daytona 500 is behind us, and we are going to talk about it on today's episode of the Pit Stop by WRN. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode. And like I said, we're going to be recapping the Daytona 500 today, talk all about the different storylines and some of the things people are unhappy about following that race. And we're also going to talk about the race we have coming up tonight on WRN. Of course, this is Monday night, so it is TNR Grand National Series sponsored by Schue Lawn Service action. It is the Team Banana Daytona split sponsored by Tabletop Trio. We're going to be at Daytona, so we're going to talk all about that and more. But first off, as always, we're going to start with the NASCAR action and Daytona 500. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. picks up his first win since the 2014 season, which Stenhouse, a driver most people either expect to be up front winning the races on the speedways, or he's wrecking out trying. And that's kind of been the story of Ricky Stenhouse's career, except a lot more of the wrecking out than the finishing races. I looked up before we recorded this episode, I think it was around like 14% of his races he's wrecked out of in his career, and that's very, very high. And of course, you go way back to when he was in the Xfinity series, and he almost lost his Xfinity ride with Roush Racing because he kept wrecking the cars, and then he kind of got his act together, and he won 2 championships in the Xfinity series. It was 2012 and 2011, I'm pretty sure, Xfinity series champion. Yeah, I was right about that. So good for me, I can remember things. But Then he moved into the Cup Series and didn't have the success I think people would have expected him to. He ran at Roush for a really long time, and of course, he was at Roush at a time where that team was kind of starting to fall apart anyways, but he just didn't have the career there. This is going to be his first win since 2017. Like we said, that was the season he won 2 races, one at Daytona and one at Talladega, I'm pretty sure, if I remember right. But theoretically, this would lock Ricky Stenhouse Jr. into the playoffs in most seasons, but I don't think we're at that point in NASCAR, because if you look back to last season, we were in a position where we almost had to make drivers who had won races not be in the playoffs, because so many different drivers won races, and that's the product of this next-gen car. So in the second season with the next gen, we really don't know what to expect, and I think that's one of the interesting things, but it's a feel-good story. Put the long-term stuff aside for a minute. Just JTG Doherty Racing winning the Daytona 500 is it's a good story, and I've been a fan of that team for a really long time. Back when it was AJ Allmendinger, that's really when I started rooting for JTG Doherty, and Allmendinger would win the road course race at Watkins Glen quite a few years ago, and that team saw a little bit of success with him, but over the last couple of years they've started to decline. They went from being a 2-car team back to a 1-car team, and I think a lot of people were starting to question at this point how long they would keep Ricky Stenhouse. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that little tidbit of just me talking about NASCAR. That is the Pit Stop by WRN, that podcast. We're releasing mostly weekly, and it is available anywhere you get your podcasts, also on the World Racing Network's YouTube channel. So make sure to give us a subscribe if you would like to hear more of that, or you just enjoy the racing. It helps us out quite a bit. And if you enjoyed tonight's stream, we ask you kindly to hit the like button. Helps us and the Total Nonstop Racing League out quite a bit. But with that, Will Radcliffe, we transition to race number 2 of the Team Banana Daytona split presented by Tabletop Trio. And it's nighttime, and that's going to change things up a little bit, because this track's a lot cooler. It's going to be a lot grippier, and so you might see more aggressive pushing, and that always means a little bit more chaos.
Absolutely, and maybe this time we'll see the higher lane be a little more dominant than it was in the last time. I mean, of course, the higher lane brought the win for Robert Kinney, but through a lot of the beginning stages, inside lane was kind of the favorite.
Right now, we are kind of just in a sit still, waiting for the session to transition over into race mode, and now we talked about it at the beginning of the broadcast, but if you weren't here at the beginning of the broadcast, no problem, because we're going to go over the format again. So, Robert Kinney won the last race. He will start last in this race, and that is the same for everybody else, really. The field inverts, so whoever finished first now starts last. The driver who finished second starts second to last, third to last, and so forth and so on. So we're going to see drivers, who weren't up there mixing it up for the win. They're going to start right at the front of the pack for race number 2, which is going to give us a bunch of new faces, and it's going to make for some very entertaining racing, watching those other drivers try to go from the back to the front.
Definitely, and also if you are one to strategize to start off in the back when the race starts and try and leapfrog ahead, well, the winners were just there in the front and now are in the back. So they have, in a weird sort of way, even better of a chance of maybe getting back to the front.
Yeah, and the benefit of race number 1, you know who you can work with now. You kind of established who those drivers are, or I think it was... Oh, who was it? I'm already forgetting things. It was one of our driver interviews. They said it was Tom Bourne. That's who. I'm sorry, Tom. That they know now who they don't want to work with, and that is almost equally as important here at Daytona, because you got to know who you want pushing you. But if there's a driver you don't want pushing you and they're the car behind you, you might be looking and for a little bit of a different lane to run in. And you see here, watching them warm up for this second race and get used to the different track temperature, the 51 Matthew Rodriguez, the 34 of Robert Kinney, they worked together the last race, and here they are in practice getting ready to work together again. Is this a different paint scheme for the 60? That's really fancy. Love the Ale 81 Cherry. That is the second greatest soda to Dr. Pepper in existence. Love seeing Ale 81 get rep. That is a very Midwest soda brand, so not everyone unfortunately gets access to that. But Will, you and I, we live in the Midwest. Ale 8, ooh, I love that. That's a nice looking car.
Yes, it is, and but I must say, it's not as good as Dr. Pepper.
That's true. Nothing's as good as Dr. Pepper. I have to tell you. You can disagree with me all you want. I guess that's... Oh, Big Rack, Robert Kinney around. You know, now we're in practice, so I think we are probably about 2 minutes away from what I've been told. A minute or two away from advancing this session around. Looking just a couple other drivers here. Okay, here's what I was warned about before this race. These three cars, Will, we were told that this team might give us some trouble. Here they are. The Outlaw cars running identical paint schemes, except for I believe they have different numbers. Well, they do have different numbers, and I believe their bumper colors are different. Yes, you see, Bustos is blue, Weeks is yellow, and I believe that makes your third car there, Eckert, have a red bumper. And so we didn't have to deal with that too much in the first, but if these three cars happen to get lined up at the front of the pack, we are sorry in advance for the mistaken names that may or may not come out of that. Thank you all out in the chat for sticking with us here. This is going to be race number 2 of the night. And it's another 40-lap race, just like the first one. And the field is going to invert from where they finished in the first race. Again, this is a good chance, once again, to thank tonight's race sponsor, Team Banana, for the Team Banana Daytona Split, presented by Tabletop Trio. Tabletop Trio, our Lucky Dog sponsor. We didn't give any of those Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog awards away race number 1 because everyone was on the lead lap during the only caution we had in that race. And another question for you, Will, is the field, you see they're getting ready to advance over into the race. Do you think that they get more aggressive in race number 2, and do you think we see more cautions? Because race number 1, if you don't finish well, there's another race coming right after that. You can try and do better. But right here, this is all you got. There's no more Daytona doubleheader after this. This is your last chance to go grab that win.
For sure. And in the first one, I think it was Matthew Rodriguez made the point that it's kind of more for points here, you know? And but in race 2, it's for the race. Their points will, of course, still be on the table, but no, it is to win tonight's race in race 2.
We'll take you through the starting order. Remember, this is an invert from the finish of race number 1. So Johnny Williams here, he finished last in race 1, got a DNF there. He's going to start from the pole, race number 2. Mike Floppy Tellier, same thing. DNF last race, starting from the 2nd position. Vincent Valvano going to roll off from 3rd in the number 64 machine. To his outside, Bob Giaquinto in the Team Banana Tabletop Trio machine. We'll have to get a look at that one a little bit later on. My camera went away. There we go. Starting in 5th place is Jason Schue. In 6th place is DJ Weeks in the number 97 machine. Bronson Stafford is in the number 61 in 7th. Philip Scott rolls off in the World Ninja League machine. 8th place, Steven Doziak Jr. in 9th. Jake Bustos 10th. And I'm just going to take you through the rest of the field here because they are already rolling. Robert Tripp in 11th place. JD Laird starts from 12th. Paul Bilson 13th. John Canizaro, the Wild Child, starts in 14th. Joey Chapman 15th. Bill Edwards rolls off 16th. Matthew Rodriguez in 17th. Tom Bourne starts in the 18th position. Robert Kenny in 19th. Garrett Gleason for some reason here is in the 20th position, although he did not finish in front of those drivers in the last race. And Johnny Eckert in the 90 also rolling from 21st place. So there is your newly revised starting order for race number 2 of the Team Banana Daytona split. And like we said, Will, we're going to see drivers we did not see up front in the last race. They're going to get to shine here in the start of this race. I love this 23 Bob Giaquinto, the Tabletop Trio, and the Team Banana car. That's a nice looking paint scheme on Bob Giaquinto. Field getting ready to go green here. Johnny Williams gonna lead the field to the green flag, being pushed by Jason Schue. Jason Schue had a very good race going, got wrecked, ended up not finishing nearly what he wanted to, but that 3 car was fast race 1. We'll see what he has race 2. Williams takes the green flag. We are racing. Mike Tellier, a really good start on the outside lane as well, but he's got no help right now from Bob Giaquinto as they race off into turn number 1. Vincent Valvano missed the start. He's going to roll out of pit lane, I believe. Yeah, you see that number 64, so he is going to be off to a tough start to race number 2, but right now it's the 47 of Mike Tellier racing out front, being pushed by your pole sitter, Johnny Williams. Williams going to drop to the back. It looks like J.D. Laird making a move down to the inside lane. The wild child, John Cannizzaro, right with him. And Bob Giaquinto in the 23. He is now up into the race lead. I think it's very fitting to see that Team Banana and Tabletop Trio machine. He leads the first lap of race number 2 of the Team Banana Daytona split presented by Tabletop Trio. Love seeing the sponsors run up front. Bob, a good plate racer too, so expect him to try and keep that car up here. But Tellier on the outside, Will, he's doing a nice job there, already activating that outside lane as Giaquinto drops to the back.
Yeah, and flopping back and forth, seeing whichever one of the two, the top or the bottom lanes, is faster. He's definitely keeping that front of the field on ice.
Mike Tellier drops to the inside in front of the 97 of DJ Weeks. Weeks had a good run at the Indy Road Course too, I believe, last week. Philip Scott, an even better run at the Indy Road Course last week. He's charging on that outside lane with help from John Cannizzaro. Behind them is the 61 of Bronson Stafford, also in a different paint scheme for this race. Oh, that's a little bit tricky here. No number on the side, no number on the roof. Really made me work for that one. Has it on the front of that car. And he jumps down to the inside with Philip Scott leading that outside now. John Cannizzaro, but it's all Philip Scott on the inside lane. Cannizzaro tries to fight back though. Nose to nose out of 4. Philip Scott gets the nose ahead of John Cannizzaro. He will lead lap number 3 of this one.
And clean so far.
Yeah, a clean start just like the last heat. We saw the caution in the last race about lap 15, a little before halfway, so we'll see if the same thing happens. And I expect, I kind of talked about it already, I expect the aggression level here to be much higher than it was race 1. Maybe not quite yet, but come the end of this race, I think people are going to be racing a lot harder. And keep in mind, too, here, as you ride on board with Philip Scott, your race leader, this is a completely separate points-paying race. Race number 1, the results are locked in. They're in the books. This is a whole other race. Completely new points. The race winner, Robert Kinney, he got race-winning points. Whoever wins this, same thing. You won the points. It's a whole other race. And, well, that just creates a lot of opportunity to have a really good night, but also a really bad night. And that's why these guys who started up here at the front, they're wanting some redemption here. You see Mike Tellier in the 47 started outside pole. Didn't have the result he wanted race 1, but he is right up here again for race number 2. It's a very good system, I think, that the Total Nonstop Racing League worked out. Do you agree with that?
I do agree, and I kind of want to point out just a little statistic here that Canizaro, who he did finish, Canizaro and number 60 of Joey Chapman were pretty far up and at the end of the last race, and they've already made their way back up here to the top.
Yeah, John Canizaro, we talked about him. He was right up here very quickly into this race. Bill Edwards, you see him making his way back to the front of this field. 61, Bronson Stafford right back up here at the front. Joey Chapman finished 5th in the last race, I'm pretty sure. Currently running in the 5th position. Well, last time by he was in the 5th position, so on scoring he is. But right now he's up in 2nd place, trying to make the run on John Canizaro with help from Bill Edwards. But that outside lane it's a little bit disorganized right now, and that's a little bit concerning. We saw how fickle those lines can be. They just quickly, they get the big run on board with Joey Chapman, but then as soon as one car or 2 cars would leave, they just kind of fall back, and I worry about that outside lane. But you see more drivers jumping up, but it's 2-car breakaways at the front of this pack right now.
Absolutely, and one nearly, and I think the beginning of a caution there.
Oh, yep, the 16 of Tom Bourne. Well, no caution. He managed to gather that car back up, sliding through the infield. We'll take a look here on our World Racing Network replay. That's not the replay. That's the live broadcast. We'll try that again here. We'll go to our World Racing Network blimp and watch the 16 up in the outside lane. Goes down low. Robert Tripp, I think, wanted to follow him down, but there was a car there, but Tripp was on the bumper of the 16, and he's going to end up being okay, but Tom Bourne, not so much here. That's not how he wanted to start race number 2 here of the Team Banana Daytona split.
Yeah, that allowed the 4-car group way up at the front to now kind of pull away from everyone else. John Canizaro leading that with Philip Scott right behind. Bill Edwards and Joey Chapman leading the back of that 4-car.
Yeah, there's a lot of separation now as drivers scattered to try and avoid that incident. So, like you said, 4-car breakaway here at the front, led by John Canizaro. It's Philip Scott, Bill Edwards, and John Canizaro going to get shuffled out to the outside. That's very much, you expect to see that, those 4 drivers working together to try and maintain this. So Philip Scott came over the radio, said, "Hey John, I'm starting to get a little bit overheated from pushing you. You mind sliding out a line so I can cool off in the race lead?" And so John Canizaro slips to the back, and they're able to maintain their momentum. And now Bill Edwards takes over pushing duties, because most of the speed of this group going to come from those top 2 cars. But Robert Tripp in the 35, he's leading a group of cars. They've caught the draft, and slowly but surely, this pack's going to get started building back up again. Drivers will catch up, but that definitely, it's separated out, so a completely different dynamic from race number 1.
Absolutely, much more much group teamwork versus, just 1 and 2 like we saw in the last one. Now they're all kind of seeing, okay, how can I, me and these other people, get to the front so I can know I only have to race these people.
We are 3 wide. JD Laird up the middle. The 61, Bronson Stafford, checked up out of it. He was 3 wide on the outside lane. JD Laird had a lot of speed race number 1, and he is working his way up toward the front again. I wonder if he and Bill Edwards aren't going to try and find a way to get together here in this race. They did a lot of working together, like we talked about race number 1. Bob Giaquinto here falling back a little bit. Steven Doziak Jr. behind him. Where is the Garrett Gleason? He's here in this pack. It's a different WRN car. He switched it up too. Got green this time. Again, some of these drivers, they're getting fancy on us. They're switching up their paint schemes between races. It's a little bit difficult, though. We got to get used to different looks for certain cars. I'm not complaining, though. They all look really good.
They do. I think it's personal, though. They just for you, Mitchell.
Just me. I think they're hazing the new guy. It's not so much for me as it is to make your life difficult, as you're already trying to figure out who's who, and then they switch up their cars on you. But doing a very good job up here in the booth with me. Again, we said this at the top of the broadcast here. Me and Will, we worked together the very first 2 broadcasts on WRN were me and Will. We did the TNR, the Big Block Modified series. We did 2 broadcasts of that series for the Total Nonstop Racing League, and that was you and me. You all. Oh, as Paul Bilson spins to the infield, John Canizaro with him. Hard contact. Will there be a caution for this one? We stay green so far. Bilson and Canizaro. I don't know if anyone else was involved. We're going to take a look on your World Racing Network replay. This one, Paul Bilson was up outside. He tried to cut down the track, and there was a John Canizaro right there. Not enough room for Bilson to cross to the inside lane, and those two get a little bit tangled up. And again, Will, I've talked about it. The margin of error here at a plate track, so close. It's a game of inches, and unfortunately for those drivers there, it's not going to go their way.
Absolutely, but at least in good news for Canizaro here, we must not have had enough damage. He's still running around in the back, didn't drop into the pits. But I think that for Paul, that was a big hit.
Yeah, Paul Bilson, heavy contact. John Canizaro got a little piece of it, but these drivers going to keep doing their thing. If you can get in the draft, you're okay, unless that damage is so severe that it's just unable to make up. But the big issue for these drivers, Paul Bilson into the garage, but John Canizaro, he's all alone out there, nobody to draft with, and that means he is just bleeding time on your leaders. And you see he's just about to cross the start-finish line on your track map there, bottom left corner. The leaders are midway down the backstrip, so he is already a full lap behind, or half a lap behind your race leader. So that is not how John Canizaro wanted that to go, and there was nothing he could have done about that one either, too. Just the 18 kind of tried to slide in a gap, wasn't quite there, but we continue. Green flag racing, no caution for that. It's still Philip Scott out in the race lead, but things have gotten a little more single filed out here at the front of the field. Bill Edwards running in second. Joey Chapman in the AL81 Sherry machine running in third. Bronson Stafford runs in fourth, and JD Laird in fifth place. Your top 5 right now. Let's look at the move by Matthew Rodriguez and Robert Kinney. They cross down to the inside lane. Again, Robert Kinney in the 34. He's already picked up 1 win tonight. He would love to make it 2, Will, in this doubleheader.
Absolutely, yeah. And we see some of our previous high runners. JD Laird is back up. Robert Kinney is already back up into 8th place. And Johnny Eckert now finally getting his chance to be up in the top. Matthew Rodriguez is also up here. I think one of the only 2 new ones at the top of the field is Floppy Tellier and Philip Scott.
Yeah, we didn't see much of Philip Scott race number 1, but definitely one of the drivers. He has momentum. He won last week. Would love to get a win here tonight. JD Laird again trying to get the outside working, but no one wants to go with him right now. You see the entire field single filed out on the inside lane except for Laird. And that's, I think, it's probably Will. You had 2 incidents early on in this race that didn't result in a caution, and it seems like these guys have settled it down a little bit. The aggression was definitely higher coming into race number 2, but you've seen a couple incidents that didn't result in a caution, but some drivers with heavy damage. And I think guys are like, okay, we need to settle it down a little bit. Let's at least make it to pit stops if we can, and then we can get aggressive a little bit later in the race. On board with JD Laird in the number 46. Now, this was about the time last race we saw that single caution we had. But right now, running single file, the odds of that happening aren't super high. And if there is an incident, the odds that it collects a bunch of cars and brings out a caution are pretty low. So now the question, Will, is when are we going to see some green flag pit stops? Because they do need to pit in this race. It's just a matter of when, and maybe that is why they're single filing out too. It doesn't hurt to be able to have a clean shot into pit road when you go to pit.
Oh, absolutely, and that'll definitely keep it away from a caution. So I'd say any maybe 2 laps or so from now, Philip looks pretty strong out in the front, and I don't anticipate that he'll be the first one to go in. I think that he won't want to risk being the first one in, and will probably let someone behind him go first.
It's really, here at these plate tracks, it's a matter of getting the cars around you to pit with you, or you have to pit with somebody at least. You don't want to go in by yourself because then you've got no draft coming back out and you're probably not going to stay with the pack. The ultimate goal is to just stay in the lead pack on your green flag pit stops. So we're probably going to see maybe 2 or 3 groups pit together here, I would imagine. Maybe a little bit more, but they're all going to try and stay together on this lead pack as you see them catching the 18 of John Cannizzaro, who again, just sitting by himself, can't make nearly the lap time he needs. But the good news for him is he would be in position for the Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award were he to be able to stay up close to the front of this pack. Currently, it's Vincent Valvano in that Lucky Dog position, running in this pack. And we do have some takers on pit road. The 23, Bob Giaquinto down, Steven Doziak Jr. down, Garrett Gleason in the WRN machine onto pit road, Jason Schue as well. So about halfway, Will, that makes logical sense, would be to pit halfway into the race. That way you know you're good to the end.
Yes, it does, but I do have a little bit of a question on the amount of fuel, because remember Matthew Rodriguez, he was making the point that caution kind of messed up, his strategy, and if this is coming a little bit after that than after we saw the last caution, perhaps they'll have more fuel this time, can run a little harder.
More takers down pit road. Philip Scott, JD Laird got in pretty hot. Wonder if he didn't get it, or if he got it down to pit road speed in time. Robert Tripp in the 35 down pit road as well. John Cannizzaro and Vincent Valvano making pit stops. I think to answer that question, it's very much your driver preference or your crew chief's preference here on what you do fuel-wise. I raced with a lot of people who would take just enough fuel to get to the end of the race so that their time in pit road was as short as possible. When I raced, I always preferred my crew chief and my pit crew to fill me up when we made a pit stop somewhat earlier. So, Bill Edwards started decelerating for pit road pretty early there, and the field had to scramble around him, and he's going to lose a lot of spots too. The rest of the drivers pretty much down pit road now. That means everyone has made a green flag pit stop. It's just, at this point, who's going to be able to come out of pit lane first, and do they stay in the lead pack? But as I was saying, some drivers prefer to pit and take just enough fuel to get themselves to the end, or some people like me like to take a little bit more in case there's an overtime at the end of the race. I don't have to come down and pit again with potentially just 2 laps remaining in the race. There's just different philosophies there as you see the rest of these drivers working out of pit lane. Joey Chapman in the 60, right behind Matthew Rodriguez. They did a good job entering the pits. And there you see Philip Scott and JD Laird. They're going to blow by these drivers and get a little bit of a gap. But when this pack of cars who just pitted out gets formed up, they're going to have a lot more people. And I would expect them to run down those 2-car tandem pretty quickly.
Definitely, but I think that was a great move by JD Laird. He was a little bit farther behind, and obviously Philip was right in the lead, and now 2 of them are kind of out together, and he's made up a bunch of spots just by the pit lane.
Yeah, they're going to have a pretty significant lead time-wise over that, what we'll call the lead pack. You have these 2 drafting ahead, then you have the peloton of cars behind them. That is Matthew Rodriguez on back to Bill Edwards, 3rd through 10th. And then there's another group, a 2-car tandem of Steven Doziak and Bob Giaquinto, who were unable to stay with the lead pack on pit stops. They are about 10 seconds behind that lead pack. You see John Cannizzaro is there with them. He's a lap down. Johnny Williams running with him, also a lap down. Theoretically, we're good on fuel to the end. Now you're just trying to position yourself to win the race. And these top drivers, they're about 3 seconds ahead of this pack led by Matthew Rodriguez. How quickly will, assuming that they're going to catch them, which I guess we should take a look at our WRN head-to-head and see how they are doing. They actually lost time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They've lost about 0.4 seconds just in this past lap.
The gap currently at 3.5 seconds. They are losing time down the straightaways, which is not something you would normally expect here. Typically, the bigger pack is able to prevail because there's more cars to build up momentum, but they pulled a lot of time through 3 and 4. But on the straightaways, Philip Scott and J.D. Laird have been able to stretch that lead out. And that just, you got 16 laps to go. Do you think that they can sustain this 2x2? Because I talked about how when you sit up right behind a car and push them for an extended period of time, I don't think J.D. Laird is being super aggressive with his pushing, but still, you are the only thing keeping these two moving. Do you think that at some point there's just going to hit the flat line and then that pack just runs them in? Or do you think they might be able to sustain this over these next 15 laps?
I think that if they work together over the radio and let each other know how hot they are, you know, they could you know, keep their cars cool, keep the tires cool, and everything that they need.
That's what you see happening here. Matthew Rodriguez pulls out of the lead of this pack. DJ Weeks now takes over. He probably said, okay, Matthew, my car's getting a little bit overheated. And Matthew Rodriguez slides out, and Johnny Eckert will push this second pack. They gained a couple tenths that last time by on your leaders. About 1/10 of a second was picked up. That's not a ton, though, when you're trying to run down 3.5 seconds. You gotta make up a lot of time quick. By that, at that rate, they wouldn't get there, but they just cut half a second down the back straightaway. So I think these top two stalling out a little bit, or this second line maybe, the number 90 of Eckert, maybe he's just bringing some life to this second pack, because they're running him down quickly all of a sudden. Gained quite a bit of time that lap.
Oh yeah, about a second.
Yeah, that gap now down to 2 seconds that this backpack is behind the front pack.
And they're about to pass the number 35. Trying to scan here, Robert Tripp, who was very successful at the beginning of the race, race 1, and now is sitting in a sad 16th.
Yeah, Robert Tripp just gets put a lap down by your race leaders. That does put him in position for that Tabletop Trio Lucky Dog Award, were we to get a caution. But if we do get a caution, it's probably going to be a couple laps away here. The next car who would get put a lap down is the 7 of Garrett Gleason. He has no help running by himself in that WRN machine. Yet the dynamic of this race, Will, is very different from that first one. Race number 1, we were in a big pack the entire time, but now we've had green flag pit stops, which didn't happen race 1, and we've very single file. And watch this, though. This second pack just catching up to your leaders. They could blow by them if they want to. But and you see there the move to the outside on board with DJ Weeks, is they're going to attempt to overtake Philip Scott and J.D. Laird. So this pack just got a little bit bigger, but more importantly, well, they are now racing for the lead and the win with 12 laps to go.
Definitely, this gives Philip Scott and J.D. Laird a chance to just kind of now just lay back, kind of relax, and maybe file into that upper line if they can, and hope for, you know, kind of a Hail Mary at the end.
The second pack, well, they had migrated completely to the top of the racetrack, but now Mike Tellier decides he wants to go inside, and the teammates almost got split up. You saw the 97 of DJ Weeks. He wanted to block low. The 90 of Eckert tried to go with him, but Tellier was there. Thought for a minute Weeks was going to abandon his 2 teammates and go to the inside lane, but those 3 outlaw teammates stay up on the high line. Bill Edwards, the next car behind them, on the inside, and currently your race leaders, Mike Floppy Tellier, the 47, the 61 of Bronson Stafford, 99, that's Philip Scott, J.D. Laird, and lap down Robert Tripp make up that inside lane. In the outside, like we talked about, it's DJ Weeks in the 97, Johnny Eckert, the 90, 74, Jake Bustos, and you get the 5 of Bill Edwards, the 60 of Joey Chapman, and then I believe rounding out that pack, the 51 of Matthew Rodriguez. Last race's winner, Robert Kinney, not up in this pack. He is a little bit farther back, about half the track behind this lead pack, running in a tandem draft with Jason Schue. So that is not how last race's winner of race 1 here tonight, wanted this one to go, but the field laps Garrett Gleason, and now we have a good side-by-side battle. 10 laps to go. Things starting to pick back up again here at Daytona, Will.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad to see, looking down at the bottom of the score sheet here, Tom Bourne, who was, of course, our second place winner for race 1, is pretty much out of the race, along with Paul Bilson, the 00, who was doing a lot of the pushing at the first half of race 1.
Yeah, 3 drivers have DNF'd in race number 2. Tom Bourne, Vincent Valvano, and Paul Bilson, all 3 out of this race. Lap down is Johnny Williams, your pole sitter for this one, John Canizaro, Garrett Gleason, and Robert Tripp. So 4 cars, 1 lap down, 3 out. The rest of them still running on the lead lap, and this pack here is made up of your top 10 drivers plus a couple cars that find themselves 1 lap down. And when you have lap down cars in the pack too, well, that always creates an interesting situation, because not everyone around you is racing for the win. Some drivers, honestly, they might race even harder trying to get up to the lead, because that would unlap themselves, and they want to do that. But then again, you've got to be the car to get up to the front of the field. So you have drivers racing for different things in this pack right now. The 35 of Robert Tripp and the 7 of Garrett Gleason, both a lap down, both in this pack. Both at the back of it right now, but if they decide to go up and mix it up, which they're entitled to do that, they're racing for their lap and their race, then that makes things very interesting for these drivers battling for the win. We have 8 laps to go here at Daytona. We're going to go ahead and do another WRN listen in before the call to the finish. Coming to 5 laps to go this time by. Still battling for the race lead up at the front of the pack. The 97 of DJ Weeks going to get his nose in front. The big thing, Will, we're looking at here is the 3 teammates lined up in the outside row. You want to have drivers you can work with at the end of the race. How about teammates all pushing each other toward this race win?
Definitely, and JD Laird and Philip Scott are still together, kind of bartering back and forth, 5th and 6th. And even though, you know, they've been caught by the pack, they're still trying to work together to get back up to the front.
And the 47 of Mike Tellier, they may be teammates in the outside, but that doesn't mean the inside lane isn't going to work together to try and get themselves up into the front. Tellier going to get the nose in front. He leads that lap, being pushed by the 61 of Bronson Stafford, who we saw have a lot of speed race 1. Made a move there toward the end of the race. Thought maybe he would win race number 1. Didn't quite work out for him, but here's, like we've said, another chance. Come out, race again, and here with 4 laps to go, all these drivers here in this pack have a chance to win the race, and that is what makes Daytona so special to watch, is it is still side by side between the Outlaw Racing drivers up in the outside lane and these drivers pushing on the inside. The outside lane has struggled a little bit to stay together, whereas the inside lane, they're very well organized, they're structured very nicely. The outside, they're kind of wiggling around a little bit, there's uneven spacing, and that's, I think, what's letting this inside lane put up as much a fight as it is that the outside is struggling just a little bit to get formed up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Every single little bit that you move off of, you're directly behind someone ahead of you, you lose all your drafts. So keeping that on that bottom line, they're just solid. They're just right one and the other, and that's keeping them moving ahead.
We got a great group of cars in both lanes here, coming to 2 laps to go this time. We saw a little bit of a surge from that outside lane, but again, Tellier leads that inside lane far out. DJ Weeks in the outside, trying to get them going. On the inside, it's Tellier being pushed by Stafford. The outside is Weeks being pushed by Eckert. With 2 laps to go, I would expect a lot of moves to be made here on this last lap, Will. Like I said, aggression level, you don't have another race to go try and win. This is it for tonight. You don't want to have lost both races of the doubleheader. You want to say you won at least one of them, and we are going to have a new winner here as they come to 1 lap to go.
Yeah, and I think the front of that outlaw group, they have a chance if they go for it. Number 97, they have the chance. DJ Weeks could be the winner, but they just got to clean it up. And it looks like that they're kind of starting to do that. Number 90 of John Eckert, they started to push a little bit there, and now they're neck and neck with Mike Floppy Tellier.
We are on the white flag lap. 1 to go here. Just half a lap remains at Daytona, and those teammates still staying locked bumper to bumper. Tellier getting a good push from Bronson Stafford, and Matthew Rodriguez tried to make something happen a little bit further back. Couldn't do it. Into 3 and 4 for the final time. Matthew Rodriguez, or excuse me, Mike Tellier with the nose in front. Can anybody make a move on him? I don't know that they can. He's got him very well covered off. Gets the push from Bronson Stafford. 3 wide to the line. It's going to be a photo finish. Mike Floppy Tellier picks up the win over Bronson Stafford in second. DJ Weeks in third, as again the field wrecks behind him. What a race from both of these races here tonight. Mike Tellier becomes the winningest driver this season. His 3rd win, and we're going to go look at the iRacing data as soon as it becomes available on how close that finish was. Let's go back here. We're going to try and get a good angle of that race finish and see if we can see just how close that photo finish was. Let's see. Got to play with cameras a little bit. Should be a pretty good one here. We're in slow motion, coming to the line. See the 47 on the inside. The 61 pushes him really hard. That gets Tellier up the track just a little bit and opens the door for Stafford to try and drive up the inside. He gets the push from Philip Scott. The 90 is getting a push from the 97. So both of the cars that aren't Tellier get a push coming to the line. Tellier all by himself in the middle and then coming to the line. That is your finish. It does not get much closer than that. Literal inches separate these drivers at the line.
That is amazing. And what a comeback story for Mike Floppy Tellier is he started the last race number 1 in 21st. And then this race starts second. And just right off the line, we could see that he was going to win. He had the pace right off the line and had it at the end too.
The margin of victory for Mike Tellier, 8/1000ths of a second over Bronson Stafford and 16/1000ths of a second over Johnny Eckert. 3 cars within 200ths of a second of each other coming to the line. It does not get much closer than that. What a finish here at Daytona. We're going to jump back live and try and catch Mike Tellier doing some post-race celebration while we line up interviews with your top 3 drivers here tonight. So stick with us here on the World Racing Network. We're going to come back and talk to race winner Mike Tellier, also Bronson Stafford and DJ Weeks, all drivers involved in that photo finish. Keep it right here on WRN. Back here, post-race at Daytona. We're going to talk to you, your top 3 finishers in tonight's race. And we are going to start with driver of the 97, DJ Weeks. 3rd place, but it does not get much closer than that. You guys were nose to nose to nose coming to the finish.
Yeah, I didn't know we were 3 wide there for a second, but there was like lap cars out in front of the bottom, and they were just getting that sniff there at the end. I was sad to see that.
We saw you on the broadcast. You were hooked up with your teammates. That had to have been an advantage for you late in the race. You had to feel pretty confident with your teammates right behind you.
Oh yeah, we run so many races together. I don't have to look in my mirror at all. I know where they're at, and yeah, it's fun. I mean, I wish we could have got it one more spot better for the team, but I mean, it was fun. I mean, plate racing's shoddy sometimes, but I don't know what they did to the setup, but there's no tape on the car, so like the suck up now is gone. I can't believe they updated that.
Well, still, nevertheless, put on some great racing for us here at Daytona. Did you enjoy this doubleheader we had tonight at Daytona?
I like doubleheaders. That's kind of cool, but plate racing's not my thing. So, I mean, the first race I was riding in 15th and got taken out by a guy just in the back somewhere. So, not my thing, but I guess anytime you can survive with the top 3, I guess you can't be too complaining.
Well, our next race, it might be a little more to your liking than, I don't know, Rockingham. How do you feel about going to that little short track?
Saving tires, man. Save. Should be good. I haven't ran there in this car in a long time. I don't know if they've changed anything, but should be a slugfest, really.
We're definitely looking forward to it. That should be a fantastic race. Before I let you go, though, here tonight from Daytona, give you a chance to give any shout-outs to the people who might be watching on WRN.
Yeah, thanks for you guys for calling the race. Hopefully we put on a fun show for you guys. All the guys at TNR that let me come race. I think this is my third race. Well, 4 if you count the doubleheader. Of course, my teammates at Outlaw. It's always fun to race with these guys, and yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you again for stopping by and talking with us after this race. Congratulations on a great run here tonight in race number 2, and best of luck to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that was third place finisher DJ Weeks, and now it's time to talk with the second place finisher here tonight, Bronson Stafford, 8/1000ths of a second short of winning race number 2.
Yeah, that was fun.
I mean, you guys put on a fantastic finish. Both the races here, very good tonight at Daytona. You were good in the first race as well, but coming to the line, you pushed Mike Tellier through quite a bit of it. How were you thinking of timing out that move to try and get the win?
Originally I really wasn't. It just kind of happened when I bumped him and it bumped him up. So I figured I'd just shoot low, but otherwise I was just going to push him to make sure, we got another team car win.
Yeah, well, I mean, still, second place at Daytona. It's nothing to be ashamed of at all. You had a great run here tonight. I'll ask you the same question we asked DJ Weeks. Did you enjoy running this doubleheader at Daytona here tonight?
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. That was actually really, really fun. Daytona's always a really nice track when it goes nice and like green and clean and stuff like that. The first race we had the one caution. This one we went caution free, I think, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
we had green flag pit stops, everything, and to still have the majority of the field together and everything. Like it's fun, especially with a good group. Is a good group of draft and just everything. So it's I like the short races for double headers. I think people race a little bit smarter sometimes.
And this race, the second race, we had green flag pit stops. We didn't get to those race number 1. Did you have drivers you were planning to come down with there?
Yeah, we had a whole team. So there's like 5 of us or so. There was like 5 of us all working together, pitting together, and making sure we had like the draft and was saving enough fuel and whatnot. So Tom got caught up early, so he was kind of caught out with it, and then we lost Robert Kenny through the pit stops, but we still had Mike and Matt Rod and Chapman. So we always had the plan, and it worked out with Philip and JD having to pit a lap before us. We were able to run them back down with the 97 and the 90. So it was fun. That was just a good race.
It was definitely a good night for you here in the doubleheader. Next week, we head to the Rockingham Speedway, going to a short track. How do you feel about that bumpy little racetrack?
I don't know. Rockingham's so hit or miss. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's not. It really depends on the setup. Like sometimes they're too tight and it just feels weird. So I don't know. That one will be interesting.
Well, definitely, it should be a good race. We're looking forward to it at WRN. Before we let you go, though, here tonight, we'll give you a chance to give some shout-outs.
The entire Sky Motorsports team worked really, really good tonight. We swept both races and had the top 2 in both races with a 1, 2, 3 in the first one, a 1, 2 in this one. And then obviously you guys broadcasting, TNR putting everything together. Mike and Co do a good job running the leagues and stuff. It's always fun. I've only been part-time with it, but every race so far has been good with the racing and stuff like that. So, and then obviously everything on the cars for sponsors and just everything. It was just fun. Just a good night. So.
Yeah, definitely a great night of racing here tonight. And thanks for talking with us. Good luck to you next week at Rockingham.
Thanks, guys.
That was Bronson Stafford, second place finisher, but now time to talk to the man who won this race, Mike Tellier. Mike, win number 3 of the season for you. Always keep an eye out for you on the plate tracks, and tonight you managed to get it done in race number 2. Just take us through it.
I guess I'm having some connection issues right now, Mitchell. But no, the race was kind of wild. I'm assuming you wanted to know about the ending. Like I
Yes.
said, I didn't hear you very well. No, coming out of 4, Bronson I don't know if he got a good shot from Philip coming out of 4, but he got me a little squirrely and just moved me up at a line, and I didn't even know if I was gonna win this drag race or not. I know I had a teammate with me for the majority of that last run, but like I said, coming out of 4 there, I guess we all accordion got jumbled up, and I got squirrely and moved out of line, and it was just a drag race, and whoever could get there first won. I'm glad it was a clean finish. Like I was when we went 3 wide, not a lot of times do we get to the end and survive. So I'm glad all the lines were working together, all the teams that got hooked up. I noticed Outlaw Racing on the high side, they were hooked up, moving. Me and Bronson, Sky Motorsports guys, we were moving on the bottom. We had JD and Philip help move that line, so that was great. I'm just glad we had a clean finish. That was fun.
It definitely was fun to watch up here in the booth. I imagine you guys were having a great time on the track as well. How did the mentality of tonight being a double header, did that change how you approach the racing here at Daytona at all, or did you just come into it the same way you always would?
We kind of, well, in my head, I made it 2 little races, and I like the rule change of Garrett allowing us to have the rolling stage and not rejumbling everyone up and having that fuel mileage come into play, because both races, especially the first one, you saw guys needing to save fuel to make it to the end. And me, I love those strategy races. They're a lot more enjoyable for me. I don't know how they are to call up here in the booth, but that definitely played a huge aspect, trying to save fuel and when to pit and yeah, it was great.
Well, glad you enjoyed it, and glad to see you back in victory lane. Next week, the series heads to Rockingham. Do you think we might see you running up at the front there?
I like Rockingham. Hopefully, if I am up at the front, we don't have another repeat of a back-to-back that we had earlier this season. I don't plan on dive bombing Philip Scott for the win. Maybe I'll half Ross Chastain it and take the high side and avoid taking someone out. No, I like Rockingham. It's definitely a tire saving track, and it brings out the best racers out of everyone.
Definitely, it's going to be a great race, just like tonight. And Mike, before we let you go celebrate your win, I'll give you a chance to give some shout outs.
Yeah, first off, tomorrow is my son Dale's birthday. Conveniently, yes, he is named after Dale Earnhardt. So tonight's a huge win. I get a win at Daytona for Dale on his birthday, basically. So that's huge. So happy birthday, Dale. I know you'll probably never see this video, but if you happen to stumble upon it, I love you, dude. Happy birthday. Wish I could see you tomorrow. Sky Motorsports for being the best teammates out there. We kicked ass tonight. Tom, Bronson, Joey, Matt, Kenny. Shane wasn't here to race with us, unfortunately. Dude, it was awesome having the whole team here, supporting everyone, working together. And like I said, everyone at TNR who was racing, that was clean, awesome super speedway racing. Yeah, there was a few incidences, but they happened. There was no huge big ones, so shout out to all the guys at TNR. Garrett for putting on the series. You guys here at WRN for broadcasting. Without you, no one would be able to watch our awesome drivers race. So much appreciated.
Well, definitely, we enjoy putting on these races every Monday night, and thank you for coming out racing, and congratulations on a great run here tonight. We look forward to seeing what you can do next week and through the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. 3 wins for Dale.
That was Mike Tellier, tonight's race winner of race number 2 of tonight's race. Again, doubleheader action, the first time we've had that on the World Racing Network. Big shout out to Team Banana for sponsoring the Team Banana Daytona Split presented by Tabletop Trio. Can't forget Tabletop Trio either, also presenting sponsor here tonight. Will Radcliffe, glad to have you back up in the booth with me. It's been quite a while. We'll take you through the finishing order here for tonight's race as well before we forget to do that. Mike Tellier won race number 2 over Bronson Stafford in second. DJ Weeks finished in third. Johnny Eckert in fourth. Philip Scott comes home P5. JD Laird in sixth place. Jake Busto 7th. Bill Edwards was 8th. Joey Chapman in 9th. And Matthew Rodriguez rounded out the top 10 for race 2.
Yep, and after that we have Steven Doziak Jr., Bob Giaquinto, Robert Kinney and Robert Tripp, Garrett Gleason, Jason Schue, Johnny Williams, John Carazano, Tom Bourne, Vincent Valvano, and finally Paul Bilson.
Yeah, a fantastic night of racing, as always, here in the TNR Grand National Series, sponsored by Schue's Lawn Service. Thank you to all the sponsors who help us make this possible. Schue Lawn Service, Stay Tuned Sports, Tabletop Trio, and tonight, again, Team Banana and Tabletop Trio for sponsoring the Team Banana Daytona Split presented by Tabletop Trio. Will, before we go off the air tonight, what'd you think of tonight's racing and your adventure back into the broadcast booth?
Oh, it was amazing. I was very glad to be here. Thank you, Mitchell. And I don't think I could have asked for a better race. Like that was fantastic. Or better 2 races, really. That was fantastic.
Yeah, Daytona never disappoints, and it certainly didn't here tonight. For all of us at the World Racing Network, myself, Mitchell Adams, my broadcast partner tonight, Will Ratcliffe, Garrett Gleason down on the track this week. Thank you all for watching. We hope you'll tune in next Monday night at 8:05 p.m. Eastern, same time, same place. For Rockingham, it'll be a great short track race. We are looking forward to it. Until then, stay safe, have fun, and we'll see you next time.